Hey guys, before we get started on this episode, just wanted to remind you that the Golden State with Mates Patreon is now live with up to 5 bonus podcast episodes every week, along with a few in-depth written articles covering the Warriors and the NBA. After giving away a brand new Nike Stephen Curry jersey earlier in the month, I'm now giving away a brand new copy of NBA 2K26 in the month of November on your choice of platform for the winner that will be drawn among Best Mate members. If you haven't checked it out already, I'll leave a link in the description. It'd be great if you could check it out. Coming up on this episode, Stevie joins me to recap Golden State's 98-79 victory over the LA Clippers on Tuesday night. More takeaways from the first week of the season also in store, the improved play from Quinten Post in this game, and even a Buddy Hield trade that the Warriors might look to consider if they want to strengthen their case for championship contention. Alrighty, the Golden State Warriors moved to 4-1 on the season following a 98-79 victory over the LA Clippers at Chase Center on Tuesday night, or Wednesday for us. Stevie, what have you got for me following back-to-back wins?
Yeah, this team has historically given us trouble. Any team with an elite rim protector, especially the way Zoo has evolved over the last couple years. We saw how we dealt with Klingon. He gave us a bit of trouble. And it's an interesting game. Veteran teams giving punches back to back. First quarter going the dubs. Harden getting whatever he wanted in the second quarter. Then they couldn't really punch back in the third. What was your takeaway about what'd you see in the difference between what happened in the end of the second quarter and then what the Warriors were able to do in the third?
Well, I think just overall, the defense in this game, obviously holding the Clippers to 79 points. What do they shoot like? 20% from three or whatever. I think they were like 6 of 30 something. Going into this game, the Warriors ranked 21st in defense. And I was like, that's a bit weird because I came into the season thinking that they would be elite defensively, like top 5, 6 at least, and that their offense might struggle a bit. But instead, it's been like the other way around through the first 4 games of the season. And this one was much more like the Warrior defense that I was expecting coming into the season. Harden has 20 in the first half, but kept him to just 1 assist, and then he went scoreless in the second half. Kawhi, 18 points, 7 of 17 shooting, no real impact. So the defense in this game was spectacular and much more like the Warrior defense that I expected to see coming into the season. And I think a big part of that, and I want to give a shout out, my biggest takeaway from the game, Quinten Post has had a pretty awful first 4 games of the season. And he gets the opportunity in this game, gets the start over Brandon Bajemski in a bigger Warrior lineup where it was like Kuminga at the 2, Butler at the 3. Very fascinating, but it worked. Those guys got off to a pretty strong start. The Warriors got out to a 27-12 opening. And Quinten Post hit 4 threes, fantastic, 4 of 7 from beyond the arc. But it was his defense in this game that was the real standout for me. Both his defense and his rebounding. 8 boards, season best, obviously, to go with his season best, 12 points. And I don't know, it was like he has been listening to me over the past week, because the past week I've been preaching, as you have, I think, as well, a little bit, thinking the Warriors need a starting, well, not a starting caliber center, but a high quality center to go with Al Horford. If Quinten Post is going to perform like that on a consistent basis, then the Warriors don't necessarily need to look at that, because he can, fit in and play the 20, 25 minutes he played in this game. Horford gives you another 20 minutes and you're lessening the workload on Draymond. So just a really impressive performance from Quinten Post. That was the major takeaway for me.
Yeah, Quinton, after last game yesterday against the Memphis Grizzlies, it looked like it wasn't so much that he played so poorly. It felt like a center is supposed to anchor a defense and also be a supportive role on offense. And it felt almost like every time he goes out there since the preseason, he needs to be babysat in some way. Like the offense and the defense needs somehow to help carry this. I believe he's already 25, right? 24.
Yeah,
He
25, yeah.
Today, everything just looked a little bit different for him. And I think it's one of the things to look at, that we often on paper looking at archetypes and match them up and go, this guy kind of works against this and he should work against this guy. And I don't know. I think some matchup we're going to see, like Al Horford didn't look so comfortable dealing with Zoo today, whereas the big 7-footer who can also stretch the floor was just a weird mismatch with that we've never had against the Clips. Yeah, because Zoo wants to just kind of sink into the paint, kind of make everything difficult for his opponent. You pop a couple in his eye from those trailer threes, and all of a sudden the whole thing gets discombobulated. So, do I think he's going to consistently be able to look like that for 20 minutes? I mean, that remains to be seen. But I mean, you have him in the trade machine in the morning, and then you take him out in the evening. That's just. I think that might be how his season kind of goes for the first 20 games. Hopefully, I mean, that game was a nice thing to see that you're hoping with his skill set he can at least create a line of demarcation between him and Trace. Yeah,
Mm,
at the very
yeah,
least, that we're not debating these two because he's too
yeah, yeah,
talented with that shot to be comparing a 6'9" guy who's so limited. So
yeah,
yeah, what did you think
yeah.
about Al Horford today? I wanted to rewatch the whole 45-minute condensed version, but League Pass hadn't put it up yet, so I wasn't able to rewatch the tape. But live, he just looked a little, I don't know, small next to Zoo, which he usually
Mm,
looks bigger than his size indicates.
yeah. Yeah, he was obviously quiet. He on both ends of the floor. I don't think he was great. I think this is going to be part of the problem when you are managing him so much, and
Mm,
particularly like he misses the third and fourth games of the season because of rest.
mm,
Like it's crazy to think about. And look, I'm not overly concerned because we're talking about one game ago, the last game he played against the Denver Nuggets. He was a huge part of defending Nikola Jokic and being part of a group that was 7 points down with a few minutes to go and ends up winning by 6 in overtime. And I think he played the last 9 minutes of that game and was really effective. So I'm not going to overreact to this performance. Again, I think part of this is a bit of rustiness. Like
mm,
he missed a couple of games in a row. I think it's going to be difficult for him at times. And I've already seen enough. I've literally seen enough to know what kind of impact this guy's going to make. I know from history that he's going to be a big time performer in the playoffs, and it's just about getting him healthy and fresh, ready for the postseason. And that's so I'm not overly concerned about his impact on Game 5 of the season, right?
mm,
And I think I'm much more focused on can Quinten Post be the guy that eats up minutes effectively and Steve Kerr has faith in to ensure that we don't need big outings from Al Horford. Like
mm,
Al Horford didn't have a great game and the Warriors won by 19 and Quinten Post was excellent. That's fine. That's fantastic. That's really what the Warriors want. And so it's about whether or not the Warriors have options to lessen the burden on Al Horford, to lessen the burden on Draymond Green. And Quinten Post delivered big time in this game. So
yeah.
credit to him.
I'm glad you brought up the Nuggets game because I think that a lot of times whenever people talk about, oh, we need a rim protector, we need a 7-footer, it's about stopping, and then the first name that pops up is Jokic. But like, Jokic plays out on the perimeter a good portion of the game, and even though if the game was to post up as many times as possible and put up 45 that way, he would definitely be able to do it, even though he's a bit out of shape at the moment coming into the season. Um, he's still more of a finesse player, a very difficult finesse player to stop for the most part. And I think Al Horford, offensively and defensively, with his IQ and his size and strength, seems to match up well there. That's why I think Post is working so well, just being able to use his big body. He's actually a little bit bigger than Zoo, even though you don't really think about that going into it. Yeah. So,
Mm.
what did you think of the starting lineup, starting Post, and then what did you think about the rotation in the second quarter? I believe Buddy Hield's the first one coming off the bench.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you've got, I mean, I think in this game, Pods was like the fourth guy off the bench. Let me just like look it up. It's really bizarre. Uh, but the starting group, it sounds like, so Steve mentioned after the game. Well, first of all, he mentioned before the game that Jonathan Kuminga is just a legitimate flat out starter now. And there's no even debate about whether or not Jonathan Kuminga is going to start on a game by game basis, which is incredible to think about based on everything we saw and read and everything that happened in the offseason. It's quite remarkable. And then Steve said after the game that the Warriors are basically just going to flip between starting Quinten Post or starting Brandon Pajemski, which means when they start Post, it's a very unlike Steve Kerr lineup because it's actually massive. You've got Steph Curry out there with four guys that are 1 7-footer in Quinten Post, and then 3 guys that are 6'6" to 6'8", and all generally play above their size, you would
Yep.
argue. Like Draymond definitely plays above his size. Kuminga with the length and athleticism probably does as well, and Jimmy as well to a degree. So that's a huge lineup compared to what we've seen from the Warriors in the past. But it does mean that Pods does get iced out a little bit. In fairness, he played really well in this game, again off the bench after having kind of a breakthrough performance yesterday with 23 points against the Grizzlies. But just looking at the numbers here, Pods, yeah, it was the fifth guy off the bench, Pods was. It went Buddy, GP2, Horford, Moody, Pods. Now, Pods played the most minutes, obviously, of that group. And again, he was good 12, 5, and 4, 5 of 10 from the floor. So I'm looking at this. I think the Warriors have a very clear, I would say, top 8
Yep.
in the rotation now. If Post can be part of that top 8, it's definitely a top 7 to me, where it's the starting group and then Horford and Moody. And then if Post is also going to start plenty of games, which you look around the league, there are so many teams with competent quality big men, right? You're going to come up against the Milwaukee Bucks later in the week on Thursday in a couple of days, and they've got Giannis Antetokounmpo and Miles Turner. I'm assuming, therefore, that Quinten Post will start that game as well. And so that's a very clear top 8 in the rotation. And beyond that, the Gary Payton the second minutes are just horrific.
Yeah, so he's got a -17 for anybody that's looking at the plus minus. That's in the first half alone. He played so terrible, he didn't come back in the third quarter. That's how trash he was today. On defense, he was worse than offense. That's how bad he was playing. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. No. Like, it's, I don't know, the GP2 spot, I was watching it in the first half, and I'm wondering, now I'm not saying Will Richard played great in this game, but why are those minutes not going to Will Richard? Like, just a higher upside player who's probably giving you more right now anyway. And so it's just Steve's love for GP2. We get it. But I'm looking at GP2, and I'm looking at Buddy Hield as well. Buddy Hield played 10 minutes in this game.
Yep.
Like,
he was so wait, I have it here because I don't want to mess with the computer. He was a minus, let me see here. In the
he was a
first half.
+7. Oh, in the first half.
But in the first half.
Yeah.
In the first half. Oh no, he was a plus. It was Al who was the -23.
Yeah. It was wild at one point. So Horford finishes at a -12, but he was a -23 at one point, and Post ends up +34 in this game. Like, that is crazy, but it does go to show the impact that Quinten Post had, and he should have arguably played more. I don't think he played any minutes in the second quarter. But yeah, I'm looking at the GP2 minutes. They're just going to evaporate. They probably should evaporate already with Will Richard playing more. And then you've got D'Anthony Melton and Seth Curry as options. And Melton particularly is just going to, like, those GP2 minutes are done, aren't they?
And that's why I'd push back on, we saw Post play well today. And I think he will have good games throughout the season. I don't know if it's going to be every time he goes out there, depending on the matchups. But I would argue that we killed 2 birds with 1 stone by packaging Buddy Hield and Gary Payton the second plus picks for Walker Kessler. Again, because you brought it up and you said we're going to chat about it. Yeah, so I might as well just get out there now. It's because Buddy Hield and Gary Payton will never exit the rotation under Steve Kerr. That's just a guarantee, yeah? And you'll even see Gary Payton fourth quarter minutes. You'll find him. You'll see him in 2 weeks for no reason other than he's that guy, yeah, from 2022. And, like, Buddy Hield's such an interesting player because he's like a Payless version of Klay Thompson. He's drive for a week, and then all of a sudden he'll win you a game or two all by himself. But the difference is Prime Klay was an elite defender, and Buddy Hield tries really hard, so his below average defense doesn't shout out on the screen. But whenever primary offensive engines have him on them, they just feel so fucking comfortable. It's like he's just a 5'10", like high school kid out there just following you around, and they just wait to shoot. He doesn't foul, so it doesn't look horrible, but he just it doesn't matter, small or big, they all feel good about him. And if they move these guys and they get Kessler, we have, what is it, 12, 13 more back-to-backs, is something of that nature. Yeah, and it's just like, okay, so they're already Horford's not going to play. But that's not really the biggest concern. if Draymond misses a 10-game stretch, if
Mm,
Horford misses 3 weeks. If
yeah,
Post goes out with an ankle, all of a sudden, it's not that one of those players is missing. It's basically we have no front court rotation. And then
yeah.
we're ending up doing these Santos, Kaminga, Butler, no big lineups and just praying that nobody tries to attack the basket. So whether it's Kessler or whoever, if they want 3, 4 picks for Kessler, like something ridiculous that they're going to say in the chat later, then of course, then he's not touchable. But I think that if you are willing to give the 32 and the 28 pick, those are post Steph prime if Steph
Mm,
is mortal. I
yeah.
think I think they have to pull the trigger if they're not willing to extend him. Nobody
Yeah.
knows what the Jazz want to do yet because they're this anomaly, just like back a couple of years ago when they started the season tough. So I don't know. What do you think? It seems like you're like, okay, I'm out on the. Let's wait till we start sucking, then we can start talking about trades again. Yeah.
I actually no, I would go the other way. I'm
Mm,
actually all in the other way. I think this team's really good.
yep.
And because I actually think they're really good and I can see what the Warriors have got. And before can I just before we get into the trade stuff,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
just
Do it.
recap. Before I just want to add something from this game. I think what I saw from this game in this back-to-back, the Warriors beat the Grizzlies 131-116 in an incredibly high, fast-paced game,
Mm,
ball flinging around everywhere. And then they come to a game like this. And I actually think the Clippers had the game kind of in their style, like the
yep.
whole time. The Warriors didn't really manage to get going with their like free-flowing motion offense a whole lot. And yet the Warriors still walk away with a 19-point win and keep the Clippers to 79 points. And you know what? I just think this team has a real ability to win in a multitude of ways, whether it be offense, whether it be defense, whether it be playing quick and up tempo, whether it be slowing down the pace. And a big part of that to me and why I think this team is, and they've just been flat out elite since the Jimmy Butler trade, is because of Jimmy Butler.
Right.
How good was it in the fourth quarter? You're kind of managing the lead. Steph's off the floor. You're up 14, 15. But, the Clippers, if you have a couple of turnovers, the Clippers could threaten, right, and get back into the game. And Jimmy Butler on like 3, 4 straight possessions just ran down the shot clock. So he's like, we're just wasting time,
Yeah.
just managing the shot clock. And then yet at the very end of it, still gets a good look.
Yep.
Like they had like a pull up over Lopez, like a little jump shot floater thing at one point. Then he had one where he drove Drew Lopez and a little dump off pass to Draymond for a layup, like right at the end of the shot clock. And I'm watching this thinking, man, this guy's good. It is so good to have a guy who, without Steph Curry on the floor, can manage the game. It's a slow, slog, hard fought game. And this guy's protecting the lead by literally just wasting time and then still getting a good look right at the end of the possession. It was so good to watch. Man, just an absolute godsend, Jimmy Butler. And it allows the Warriors to win in a multitude of ways. And I think this team's really good.
Hmm.
I think what we're seeing right now is sustainable. And it almost makes me think I would push further into are they one piece away from being a legit title contender? Because I think part of it, what we've seen in recent seasons, is that we're and Mike Dunleavy Jr. has mentioned this. Like, we don't want to make a move for the sake of making a move if it's not going to put us into legit contention.
Mm.
Like the Butler move, I actually think that was just more out of we've got nothing else to do. Like we're hopeless. We've got to do something, right? And fortunately, that really, obviously came off for them. Right now, I'm on the other end where I'm like, this team's really good. I think they should really have a look at what they can do to get one more piece to upgrade the roster and become a legit championship contender. And right now, Buddy Hield is the odd one out to me because if we are looking at a top 8 of the rotation with the starting 5, let's say the starting 5 that we saw in this game, Pods and Moody and Horford, that's a clear top 8. If you get Melton back, that's 9. Buddy Hield is the only guy a part of this that is making more than like $3 million and is not part of what could be the top 9 in the rotation. He's like literally the 10th guy and he's making $9.2 million. That to me makes him a legitimate trade candidate. As much as it would suck because the Jimmy and Buddy Hield stuff is fun to watch and they're hilarious and the vibes are great. And I think Buddy Hield does bring a lot from a vibe standpoint. The trade to me, because I know you want, we've mentioned before, would you trade Pods for Walker Kessler? Well, how about Buddy Hield and a couple of firsts, whatever, the 28, 32 picks, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
for Walker Kessler and Kevin Love,
Yeah,
and
that's
you get rid of TJD and you waive TJD because TJD is on a non-guaranteed contract before January 10th.
mm,
So it's essentially Buddy and TJD and a couple of firsts for Walker Kessler and Kevin Love. And Kevin Love's, former teammates with Jimmy Butler. I'm not sure Kevin Love's ever really going to play for you, but I think you've already seen Utah. He's a really, really good veteran presence. Is Steve going to be okay with maybe throw? I've always kind of wanted Kevin Love on the Warriors, and now he's like too far into his career. He's like kind of washed,
yep.
but he would fit into the system to some degree. And so if he had to play, like if Horford's out, and even like if Horford's out, you're just playing Kessler and Post, I suppose. But that's the trade I'm looking at right now. If I'm in the trade machine, it's Hield for and whatever picks it takes for Kessler and Kevin Love and waiving TJD. That's what I'm doing.
I feel like me and you are sharing one brain in the early AM in our trade machines because it's literally what's saved on my desktop on my non-work computer. It's I want to trade Gary Payton the second simply for the reasons we've already discussed. So I would use that instead of Trace and just kind of have Trace at the back end as the 15th man on the roster. But I think Kevin Love on the bench, he seems to be a good locker room guy. He was with Jimmy Butler back in that last run. So I think it'd be a nice add. Also, just like we can do the trade with just Walker Kessler, yeah, and send one
Yeah,
or two guys out. But I think Utah would appreciate not having to absorb an additional $5 million this year. So sending Kevin Love's 4 point whatever it is, 4.4,
yeah,
4 point sit back to us. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think just the front court rotation of being able to start Post or being able to start Kessler and have either Draymond come off the bench at times to save his legs or being able to just start him and starting Post. And then you had talked about playing Post more. I think with these bigs, they have a cap on their per 36 production that once they go over 20, 24 minutes, that exhaustion, that fatigue, it's just a big tank they're carrying around. It starts to plummet. And I think it's something really hard to identify. But like after 5 minutes starting, that's when I would take him out. Any of them, whether it's Kessler or Post, they're so big that if you tell them, hey, give me 5 minutes of everything you got, and then you're going to get your first rest. I think that would be the best way to optimize where we're just running bigs the whole time until the fourth quarter comes. And then, you go small, but Al Horford at the 5, the lineup with Butler that you talked about, man, with Butler, Pods, Moses, and Horford. Buddy was with them too, but those four, I think if you take Buddy out and you put in Will Richard, that's going to be a nasty lineup to deal with. That's like doesn't have Steph in it or Draymond and
well, I wouldn't even. Can I just stop you? Like
uh,
Melton when he comes back,
Melton. But
like
I don't
that's
like to.
Melton.
I just pretend Melton doesn't exist since he's been on the sidelines for the most of the decade,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
don't really
yeah.
want to
Yeah,
count his production. But yes, for
yeah,
sure, if Melton put that's a nasty closing lineup even without Steph. Yeah, for other
yeah.
teams that they would be happy to be able to sport Jimmy Butler with those guys. But it depends when Pods and Moody, when they're running well, they look like above average players. So
Mm, yeah.
but yeah,
I
regardless, the team looks great, though. I absolutely agree with you, and better
yeah.
than I think even the most optimistic people. It's easy now, 20 hindsight's 2020, but I don't think anybody expected them to look this ferocious on both ends of the
Mm.
floor. I was surprised, as you did, talking about the defensive numbers, but I don't think they're reflective of what the numbers will look like 30 games from now.
Yeah, yeah, that defense will see. Well, let's have a look. I would just want to double check now where they're at defensively after holding the Clippers to 79 points, because
Mm.
you'd imagine it's just, especially this early in the season, they are up to 11th. So they've gone from 21st to 11th in one game. So I'd assume that might even keep climbing some more into a top 5, 6. I want to ask you,
Yep.
what do you make of so we know that from now on, like Steve's going to continue starting with the Kuminga, Butler, Draymond trio together.
Mhm.
Are you confident so that's been fantastic to start the season. Are you confident that that remains when these three guys are all shooting the ball at a very, very high clip, which at a rate that's just flat out unsustainable? Jimmy Butler went 3 of 4 in this game from 3-point range. He's now 8 of 14 on the season, which is 57.1%. Again, he's not taking necessarily a whole lot, but he's knocking them down.
Mm.
Kaminga, I think, is at 43.7% or something, and Draymond is above like 40, nearly 45% as well. Is that a bit of a worry for you? Because that's the one thing I'm kind of looking at and saying, well, are there going to be times during the season where those three guys just aren't shooting the ball well and that kind of trio becomes problematic again?
Well, I didn't isolate the third quarter, but they ran that first quarter because of the threes coming from Butler and Draymond, but that's not the reason that they came back in the third. Yeah, so even though they're spacing the floor and so forth, but is this going to stay? It's really hard to believe in anything since we've seen the fluctuation of Kuminga's career with Steve for the last 4 years to believe anything from 4 games because we've seen stints like this. They didn't start at the beginning of the season, even though he did start last season, yeah, at the beginning of the year. Um, I'm not too concerned about the spacing to answer your specific question. I don't think that's the reason that this lineup has been so elite for the last couple games, but it's not sustainable that all three of these guys continue. I think the key is that as long as one of them isn't dry and that the others are mildly respected and we keep cutting to the basket, Steph will pick up the rest of the slack. Yeah. It seems like when they're shooting, almost Steph's brain kind of just like, okay, I'm just going to get people involved. They'll just kind of run around and I'll get mine in the second half. But I think that if he sees that the well goes dry on the majority of his bigs around him, then he'll start to crank up in first quarters when it's necessary. But do I think this is a sustainable closing lineup? I think the big question is, Kerr says Kerr says that Kuminga is a solidified piece of the starting lineup. I don't give a shit about that. I want to know if he's a solidified part of the closing lineup. Yeah, because
Yeah.
if we see a game 35 games from now, it sounds impossible. But if 35 games from now I see Gary Payton the second close over Kuminga, like after what we've seen, like of the dedication to the defense. I watched every single Kuminga possession from the Nuggets game, and he was just the ball's shadow. Every time the ball went up, didn't matter if it was Draymond, didn't matter if it was Steph, he was cutting through defenders to get to the rim. Even when he didn't get the offensive rebound, I saw Steve's just a little tear dripping from his eye, just like that's what I've been talking about the whole time. Second possession of the game, he just creates a foul off a rebound. And if he just keeps doing those things, he's just a different type of player. We just always have had problems with rebounding like when we don't have Loon on the floor. He's basically the Kavan answer for missing that presence on the glass. So I hope that's the case. What they do with the starting lineup, Steve likes to tinker. It's early. We got this enormous rotation. I think it's okay. Yeah, you're working things out early in this season. So
Yeah. I think you got to get more in on Kuminga. I think.
yeah, for sure.
You sound a little bit hesitant on just jumping all the way into this is legit.
Oh, I
This
think
is
no. I think it's legit. I think he had a great game despite the what did he have 7 points or something? It's 9
Yeah.
points. The 3-point. I don't like that he only has 2 3-point attempts. I feel like he's hearing 2 different stories, not just this season. I feel like it's been like shoot the rock when you're open, move the ball, let the ball find energy, and then sometimes like, hey, push the rock. Don't, and like that's not your shot when you're on the floor with Steph. He's always on the floor with Steph. And like if he's wide open, he should let it go. And if it's okay if he misses, he goes 0 of 5 in a game. He's doing enough things to affect winning basketball at the moment. But no, as long as he keeps crashing the glass on the offensive end, I think that when he's having these big outbursts like he did against Memphis, it's just the cherry on the sundae. But as long as he's doing that on the glass, we don't really have another player that's doing that. His defense looks okay. Yeah, I don't think
Well, he's getting the responsibility, isn't he?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
he's
think it's
getting the. Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I cut you off. I apologize, but I think it's the the defense, which is in large part why he's part of this starting lineup, more
Yeah.
so than just the offense. Obviously, it's the rebounding, and it's the fact that we kind of came into this thinking Moses was going to be the primary point of attack defender, and Moses was going to be in this Kuminga spot as a starter. Moses gets that minor calf injury, and Kuminga's now just taking it with both hands. And Steve said before the game, like even before he brought up the offense and the improved decision making and shot selection and stuff like that, he said we had him guarding Ja Morant last night. We're going to have him guarding James Harden in this game, and he's still got a way to go. He's not a polished defender by any means, but you can see he's got the tools for it. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. I've always said he's a much better on-ball defender where he can really
Sure.
focus rather than off-ball defender. So it's the defense more than anything. And if he can continue being a net positive on that end of the floor, then I'm with you. Like they are going to live with him missing a few jumpers from the outside occasionally. Like it was really interesting in the second half of this game for a period. They put Zubac on Kuminga because they were like, well, Post is a legit 3-point threat.
Yeah.
And so we're going to put another guy, like a smaller guy onto him out on the perimeter and let Zubac just kind of guard Kuminga, but not really guard Kuminga, just roam around the paint. If JK wants to take an open three, we're just going to live with that. And I think defenses will do that more. Defenses will say, all right, you've started the season all right from 3-point range. You obviously went 4 or 6 in that season opener against the Lakers. Do we truly believe in it? Not really. Let's see it more. Let's see if we just put our center on you and sag off, can he, one, make the right decision in terms of the shot selection and knowing when to take that shot? 2, can he execute and knock down those shots? Can he have times where he eats up the space and actually drives in and finishes at the rim? I'm going to be really super, super fascinated to see. Have you got anything? Yeah, go on.
Just extending on Kuminga, I think that it's been a wise decision by Steve to basically match his minutes with Curry, because I think it's easier for him to identify that the long 2-point fadeaway is not an ideal shot. It's not an option when Steph is sharing the floor with you. But a wide open 3 is for anybody, Draymond, Butler, and Kuminga. And I think that that's helped his shot selection. It's like, if you can get to the rim, it's yours. But it should be getting to the rim at will, where it's your first move. 1 or 2 dribbles to the rim. If you can get there, if you're faster than Valanciunas or you're faster than Zoo or whoever the big is on you, then go to the rim. If not, kick the rock. And I think that's been a wise decision that I hope that when Curry doesn't play and it's just him, that he maintains this mentality, because there's going to be rotational shifts where he doesn't see the floor with Curry. And I hope that he can figure that out as well, because it seems like that's been the main change of having them just together. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting those nights where Steph's resting or something, where Steve says, all right, we actually need like 25, 30 out of it. We actually need you to hunt your shot.
yeah.
Can he ramp that up? And then next game when Steph's back, just calm it back down and back into what we're seeing at the moment in terms of the really balanced shot selection and decision making and stuff like that on offense. Have you got anything else, like major takeaways that you've seen from this game or anything over the previous week?
I actually wanted to ask you more of a league-wide question of, we've seen all these outbursts, 40, 50 points all over the league. And like, I'm really glad for Steph, because it's helping his whistle, getting this high 5 change rule or whatever that everybody's put an emphasis on. I feel like if you give something to the offense, you got to take something and give back to the defense. This fucking SGA running back forearm shit's got to stop. Like, he's doing it from backcourt, in the paint, everywhere. And like, it's not just him, but it's like, they got to change this rule. Like, I feel like you look and it's like 50 points. Okay. Instead of looking at the 3-point attempts and the 3-point makes, the only thing you have to do is go look at free throw attempts. And it's just like 17 attempts. And it's just like, of course, there you go. What do you think about this trend? And it's this very small sample size thus far, but what do you think? And do you think it's correlated to this these new emphasis on how we officiate offensive and defensive players?
Well, I'm just thinking of Austin Reeves going for 51 on, what was it, 22 of 23 from the free throw line or whatever else. It's frustrating. It's tough to watch. Even some of the Harden stuff today is, watching that is a little bit frustrating. And it's why Steph is so loved, because Steph just plays ethical hoops, I suppose we call it. And it's great from a Warrior perspective to have a balance where you've kind of got Steph and you've also got Jimmy, who Jimmy is a I don't want to call him a foul baiter, but he's just very good at. Well, he's very good at drawing fouls. Must be said.
Mm.
Now he's not at the Shea, Austin Reeves, Harden level necessarily, but I don't know. Some of it, like some of the outbursts, I think have come. Like the Aaron Gordon stuff, that wasn't really foul related. That was just him just absolutely lighting it up from 3-point range. Markkanen goes to 50, which is kind of crazy.
Had
I started
17 free
listening
throw
to some of
attempts,
the.
yeah?
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Which, but, I mean, he still knocks down 6 threes. Yeah, it's. I don't know. I think there's so much. I was listening to Bill Simmons and Tim Legler just the start of their conversation before on the Bill Simmons podcast, and they were just talking about the amount of just talent that's in the league right now. And I do think we are in a situation where there is just so much talent, so many guys capable of shooting, like doing every aspect of the game, essentially, like shooting, passing, dribbling, all these different things. Bill brought up a really good point where you've got guys now who grew up watching Steph in like high school and college who are now coming into the league and grew up with the generation of, oh, I need to shoot the three ball at a really high level, right? Because that's the way the game is going. And so you've just got so much offensive talent, so many guys who know how to manipulate their bodies and angles in a way to be able to draw fouls, obviously, and draw the referees into some of the crap that goes on. So I think the league is in a really, really good place. But and it's really it was actually as tough as it was to watch. It was actually really nice to watch a game like this today,
Mm.
where it was almost old school throwback, slow down the pace a little bit, a lot of half court sets, and a really defensive minded game. Now, the Clippers missed a lot of shots they'd probably look back at and say, yeah, we should have knocked that down. We should have knocked down a bunch more threes and stuff like that. But this was a kind of an old school game that I liked as opposed to some of the big scoring games that we see both from an individual standpoint and team standpoint so far this season.
But I think one of the reasons that you enjoyed this game is if we look at the free throw attempts, Harden leads the game with 7. Yeah, so this was a very different officiated game, despite that. I think Hardens are just atrocious in a way at moments that they remind us of past trauma, so it amplifies
Yeah.
itself than what's actually in the present. But it's just like with what you said and what Simmons said, there's so much talent in the league. You gotta defend the defenders against this situation. Yeah, like great defense in the last playoffs was why the playoffs were so fantastic. I just think like
Yeah.
we can't be giving these phantom calls on top of all the genius that's being created by the manipulation. But that's it. Yeah, that's my one big grievance of like, I watch everything on tape delay, so I get to skip all the free throws, but I can't imagine, like today I watched live. I can't imagine watching OKC live all season. It sounds like the worst experience ever.
Yeah, I'm just looking this up. This has to be a season record so far. Now we haven't had too many games, obviously, but if without looking at it, how many fouls do you reckon the Clippers committed in this game?
I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't
Like
even
just
guess.
total fouls.
I have no idea. 5.
5 total fouls were committed.
That's so
by the Clippers
wild.
in this game. I know, like, I don't think we'll see a lower number this season from any team.
Yeah.
So Chris Dunn had 2, Harden had 1, Bogdanovic had 1, and Derrick Jones Jr. had 1, and that was literally it. The Warriors shot 4 free throws in the game
And dominated. That was his.
Yeah, and won by 19.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but I mean, credit like the Clippers. They should be relatively good defensively. The worry I have with them watching this game is that they kind of missed Beal offensively. They needed that third guy to get going, but then when Beal's playing and you've got a backcourt of him and Harden, then like defensively there's question marks. So there's a tough balancing job there for Ty Lue, I think, in regard to balancing the offense and the defense once Beal comes back.
Assuming Kawhi stays healthy, do you think that he will be some sort of force as we see him in the past, like come playoff time, come end of the season? Or like, I didn't really understand so much of like the hype around this team going in. I know they looked really good at the end of last season in that
Mm.
short stretch before the playoffs, but I don't know. I feel like this team has like a mid-sized floor, but a really low ceiling. Like the idea that Harden's gonna finally show up in the playoffs and Kawhi is going to stay healthy, that seems like two really impossible things to happen simultaneously.
Yeah, they look flat in this game, and I'm pretty high on them, but I'm also looking at, and maybe I was a little bit higher on their bench than what I should have been, because
Mm.
their bench is, and this is the difference between them and the Warriors. The Warriors have a bunch of young guys, right, coming off the bench who should be able to play, and if you include like guys like Kuminga and Post and Pajemski who are going to be in the starting lineup, those guys should be able to play at 110% relentlessly, are fighting for rotation minutes on a nightly basis. The Clippers bench is just like a bunch of old guys still. It's like Chris Paul, Brook Lopez, Nick Batum, uh, who am I missing? John Collins is a bit younger, obviously, but they've just got a bunch of like older guys. And I'm looking at a game like this, and there was just no one to give them any kind of ounce of energy in a way that the Warriors could potentially get out of their young. Like Moses Moody in the third quarter against the Grizzlies yesterday just goes off and hits like 4 threes and breaks the game open.
Mm.
Right. I'm just looking at the Clippers, and I think that on paper their 10-man rotation looks excellent, but
Yeah.
they're very old, and I think the Warriors copped probably more criticism going into the season for being such an old team than what the Clippers did. When it's like, hang on a second, the Warriors do have a bunch of like 23, or if we go from Post at 25 and younger guys who are going to be big parts of this rotation in a way that the Clippers just do not have that
Yeah, they
whatsoever. And therefore, as older veteran guys, you're just going to have nights like this where you're flat. You are just genuinely flat and you don't play well. And the Warriors can address that a little bit better than the Clippers can because they've got a bunch of young guys.
Yeah, and I don't know why, because we saw Bogdanovich just kind of coming at the end there. I don't know if he's just out of the rotation. I don't know if he's coming back from
That's
something. Like
mm,
he's such an odd player, because I remember like 5 years ago he was just one of those trade machine darlings, because he was on that mid round. Like his money worked in so many
mm,
different situations for so many different teams. Like he's a decent defender with size, and he's a sniper, and it's just like he's always hurt, so it seems like he never gets a rhythm. Yeah, like he's always
mm,
coming back from something. And then you got Derrick
yes,
Jones Jr., who's being tasked with being like their primary wing defender, because Kawhi just like I don't know, is only gonna do it. I don't know when June comes, like if they get to the
yeah,
finals, when it's supposed to be. So it's like in the first quarter, I was like, it seems like they don't have a primary wing defender. Yeah, it seems
mm,
like Derrick Jones Jr. from that Dallas run is supposed to just miraculously reinvent himself from then, but he's not really that guy. He's like, he's a decent defender. He's at his position, not an elite
mm.
defender. So, yeah.
I think he's a good defender. I'm more so concerned with he's become a reasonable 3-point shooter, but not a good one to the
Mm,
point where defenses are going to close out to him. He's a little bit of an offensive liability, it must be
mm.
said. But anyway, have you got anything else before we wrap it up, or that's it?
Nah, that's it, man. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Thanks for coming on again. We'll have you back on next week. The Warriors play, what do we got? The Bucks on Thursday US time. Then I think a back to back. Is it in Phoenix and Sacramento? Anyway, the Warriors play a bunch of road games going forward here, so it's going to be interesting to see. Thanks so much again, Stevie. Looking forward to doing it again. If you guys haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that'd be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POC252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. We'll see you on the next episode.